Chapter 1. The singularity of China societies and nations tend to think of themselves as eternal. They also cherish a tale of their origin. A special feature of Chinese civilization is that it seems to have no beginning. It appears in history less as a conventional nation state than a permanent natural phenomenon. In the tale of the Yellow Emperor, revered by many Chinese as the legendary founding ruler, China seems already to exist. When the Yellow Emperor appears in myth, Chinese civilization has fallen into chaos. Competing princes harass each other and the people, yet an enfeebled ruler fails to maintain order. Levying an army, the new hero pacifies the realm and is acclaimed as emperor. The Yellow Emperor has gone down in history as a founding hero, yet in the founding myth, he is re-establishing, not creating, an empire. China predated him. It strides into the historical consciousness as an established state, requiring only restoration, not creation. This paradox of Chinese history recurs with the ancient sage Confucius. Again, he is seen as the founder of a culture, although he stressed that he had invented nothing, that he was merely trying to reinvigorate the principles of harmony which had once existed in the Golden Age but had been lost in Confucius's own era of political chaos. Reflecting on the paradox of China's origins, the 19th century missionary and traveler, the Abbé Régis Évariste Houck, observed, Chinese civilization originates in an antiquity so remote that we vainly endeavor to discover its commencement. There are no traces of the state of infancy among this people. This is a very peculiar fact respecting China. We are accustomed in the history of nations to find some well-defined point of departure, and the historic documents, traditions, and monuments that remain to us generally permit us to follow, almost step by step, the progress of civilization, to be present at its birth, to watch its development, its onward march, and in many cases, its subsequent decay and fall. But it is not thus with the Chinese. They seem to have been always living in the same stage of advancement as in the present day, and the data of antiquity are such as to confirm that opinion. When Chinese written characters first evolved, during the Shang dynasty in the second millennium BC, ancient Egypt was at the height of its glory. The great city-states of classical Greece had not yet emerged, and Rome was millennia away. Yet the direct descendant of the Shang writing system is still used by well over 1 billion people today. Chinese today can understand inscriptions written in the age of Confucius. Contemporary Chinese books and conversations are enriched by centuries-old aphorisms citing ancient battles and court intrigues. At the same time, Chinese history featured many periods of civil war, interregnum, and chaos. After each collapse, the Chinese state reconstituted itself as if by some immutable law of nature. At each stage, a new uniting figure emerged, following essentially the precedent of the Yellow Emperor, to subdue his rivals and reunify China and sometimes enlarge its bounds. The famous opening of The Romance of the Three Kingdoms, a 14th century epic novel treasured by centuries of Chinese, including Mao, who is said to have pored over it almost obsessively in his youth, evokes this continuous rhythm. The empire, long divided, must unite. Long united, must divide. Thus it has ever been. Each period of disunity was viewed as an aberration. Each new dynasty reached back to the previous dynasty's principles of governance in order to re-establish continuity. The fundamental precepts of Chinese culture endured, tested by the strain of periodic calamity. Before the seminal event of Chinese unification in 221 BC, there had been a millennium of dynastic rule that gradually disintegrated as the feudal subdivisions evolved from autonomy to independence. The culmination was 2.5 centuries of turmoil recorded in history as the Warring States period, 475 to 221 BC. Its European equivalent would be the interregnum between the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648 and the end of the Second World War, when a multiplicity of European states was struggling for preeminence within the framework of the balance of power. After 221 BC, China maintained the ideal of empire and unity, but followed the practice of fracturing, then reuniting, in cycles sometimes lasting several hundred years. When the state fractured, wars between the various components were fought savagely. Mao once claimed that the population of China declined from 50 million to 10 million during the so-called Three Kingdoms period, AD 220-80, and the conflict among the contending groups between the two world wars of the 20th century was extremely bloody as well.